Be ready. 10 seconds to go. Start. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I stand to support the bill. The bill makes two small amendments which are for the benefit of the workmen. Therefore, they are welcome. Employment of a casual nature is now covered and there is a marginal increase in the pecuniary limit. It is good so far as that part of the bill is concerned. Therefore, I compliment the Honorable Minister for bringing this measure. But I believe that much remains to be done in this behalf. Strangely, while including those persons whose employment is of a casual nature and who are employed otherwise than for purposes of the employer's trade or business, Schedule 2nd of the Act excludes those who are working in a clerical capacity. In fact, if casual employment is also covered by the Act, it is all the more necessary that the employment of those who are working in a clerical capacity should also be covered. The crux of the matter, in so far as workmen's compensation is concerned, is the injury which arises out of and during the course of employment, and a clerk is also in the place of employment where he meets with the accident because of his employment. He was there only because of his employment and therefore he is entitled to compensation. Therefore, the clerks should also be covered by this benefit of compensation. I may mention that in a comparable enactment, namely the Employees Insurance Act, clerks are covered and there is no reason why they are not covered by the Workmen's Compensation Act or the Industrial Disputes Act. I have another suggestion to make in so far as the amount of compensation that is made payable is concerned. The computation of the compensation under Section 4 is done in a manner which is not intelligible to common man because an actuarial method is employed and a smaller figure is ultimately computed even though the workman is getting a salary of a proportionately higher range. So, as a matter of fact, the increase of the limit to rupees 4,000 is ridiculous looking to the value of the rupee which it has attained during the last few years, and therefore it will be reasonable if the compensation is based on the emoluments of the employee without depending upon the higher limit, and whatever the emoluments, the compensation should be commensurate to those emoluments. I have already mentioned that the aspect of computation is unintelligible and that sometimes brings injustice to the workman concerned. There is a third aspect to which I would like to draw the attention both of the House and the Minister is regarding the list of occupational diseases in the enactment. This list today is thoroughly outdated, particularly in view of the fact that the increase in the industries with chemicals is enormous, and in fact, because of several international conventions, the Factories Act has been amended to introduce a substantial chapter to cover hazardous substances and safety measures insofar as the workmen are concerned. In fact, the rules under the Act make it mandatory for the employer to subject his employees to medical examination every 6 months. The diseases that one gets afflicted with because of his exposure to various hazardous substances and chemicals are not covered by the Act. Therefore, the schedule in respect of occupational diseases, which is thoroughly outdated, needs to be replaced to include diseases for which protection is sought by express provisions under the Factories Act. Lastly, I would submit that the definition of compensation should also be reviewed. Today, an employee is entitled to compensation as provided by an enactment. But we have industries where trade unions are strong and they enter into agreements providing for higher compensation. That provision in the agreement is given a go by taking recourse to a statutory limit. Therefore, the definition of compensation, which is now only that which is governed by the Act, must also include compensation as is agreed between the parties. I therefore submit that even though this bill is meant for the benefit of the employees, it does its job only marginally insofar as the diseases covered, insofar as the employees, including clerks, covered are concerned. Madam Deputy Chairman, this Act of 1923 was last amended in the year 1995. Subsequent to that, after a span of 5 years, now on the basis of their commendations of the Standing Committee on Labour and Welfare, the Minister has come to enhance the compensation for workers to bring the casual workers also within the purview of this Act and also to enhance the limit of wages. 3 categories of amendments have been moved. I welcome the bill and fully support it. I thank the Standing Committee on Labour for the hard work that it has done. I also appreciate the Minister for moving these amendments. My first submission is that the quantum that is being fixed by this amendment is very low. It is lacking rationale because the quantum assessed is rupees 80,000 for death and rupees 90,000 for permanent disablement. Stop.